1211, Part A. We want to state the null and alternative hypotheses and indicate whether the hypothesis test will be one or two-sided. So Part A, do female college students study more on average than male college students? What is the null hypothesis here?
Study equally?
Yes, that they study equally. You're looking for an equals condition. What you're looking for is comparing the two. The equals condition is the null hypothesis. Okay? What about the alternative?
Females study more.
Okay. It says, do female college students study more? So that's our key. Our alternative is that female college students study more than male college students. Okay. Is this one or two-sided? This is a one-sided. Okay. It has a greater than condition. We're looking for simply to be on one side only. In other words, we don't care if males actually study more than females. That would not cause us to reject the null hypothesis. We're specifically looking for one direction. Okay. We'll find out later why you might want to do that in particular situations. B, compared to men who are not bald, are bald men more likely to have heart disease?
Bald men and not bald men are equally likely to get heart disease.
Okay? So, bald or not bald are equally likely to get heart disease. So what is the alternative hypothesis?
Bald men are more likely to get heart disease than not bald men.
Sure. Essentially a restatement of the question involved. Bald men are more likely to get heart disease. Okay, so that would be our alternative. Now at this point, when we start working with specifics, we start working with more involved procedures, we will get much more specific about the hypotheses. I'll get much more particular about things. But right now, these kinds of statements are all I'm looking for in statements of null and alternative hypotheses. The keys that I'm going to look for, though, is I'm going to look for the fact that the hypotheses for null have an equals, and that alternatives do not have an equals. And I'm going to also look for the fact that you're making a statement about the population, not about an individual sample. Okay? So those are the key things that I'll look for when I'm looking for this. But these would make very good questions for a midterm exam or for homework or anything else. Is giving you situations, asking you to formulate null and alternative hypotheses for it. C, is there a correlation between height and head circumference?
The null would be there's no correlation.
Okay, the null would be no correlation. The alternative is?
There isn't.
Sure. Where's the equals condition then? You're correct. It's not quite as obvious in this case, is it? It'll be more obvious later on when we actually look at one of these, but the equals condition is that no correlation is that the correlation is equal to 0. And then the alternative is that the correlation is something other than 0. Okay? So that's where that equals condition shows up. So it's still there, but in this particular case, the way it's worded, it's a little bit harder to see.
So would this be like a two-sided thing or whatever?
Absolutely, this is a
Okay.
two-sided test. D, will an increase in the speed limits on interstate highways lead to an increase in the highway fatality rate?
So the null would be the increase in speed limits would not increase the highway fatality.
Okay. Alternate?
It will.
Yeah, it will. I'd like you to state it a little bit more fully on a test or something like that, but that's sufficient here, is that it will. In fact, actually, if you put it on a test as it will, I probably would give you pretty much full credit for that, too. Okay.
That's
Part
way to
E.
save blood.
Hmm?
Nice way to save blood, or ink, or whatever.
Yes. Saves me reading, too. When a coin is spun on its edge, is the probability that it will land heads up equal to 0.5? Where's the null hypothesis?
No.
Trying to get different people answering questions.
There's an equal chance that the
or we could simply state that the probability is 0.5 or equal chance is equally as good. There's an equal statement in there though. Right? So the probability is 0.5. What is the alternative? How did it state it? When the coin is spun on its edge, is the probability that it will land heads up equal to 0.5. So what kind of an alternative should we have here? It's a not equals condition. So it's not equal to 0.5. That is a two-sided test. Okay? Did you feel like you could kind of put those together reasonably on your own? Formulating hypotheses at this level should be relatively easy. They should be fairly comfortable because it's not that much different than things that you naturally do anyway. So we're only getting a little bit more formal than we would normally. Are there any more questions before we finish up for the day? Okay. This is really about all we're going to do with hypothesis testing at this point. Obviously, we're going to get much more specific as we get into this. We'll get much more specific about how we determine the likelihood. But for the midterm, this is about as far as we're going to go. And so we've got a midterm coming up a week from today. On Friday, we've got some lab work to do. There will also be some time to answer questions. We'll get the projects back. Monday is a review day. One of the questions that came up during the 1 o'clock class was asking about crib sheets for the exam. And on an exam, I not only allow a crib sheet, sometimes I have thought about the idea of actually grading you on the basis of your crib sheets, but I do encourage them. One 8.5 by 11 sheet.
I've heard 3 people whisper, what's a crib sheet?
What is
Oh,
the group sheet?
cheat sheet, crib sheet.
Oh.
No.
Something other than writing the stuff on the back of your
I was
hand.
thinking cribbage.
Okay, it has nothing to do with cribbage.
Weird.
So, a cheat sheet, 8.5 by 11. You can use both sides. It can be handwritten, typed, or a combination. If you can read a 3-point font, go ahead and use it. My only real requirement on these cheat sheets is you cannot bring a microfiche reader into the room for reading. However, I would not have a problem with a magnifying glass if you really want to bring one.
Yes.
Pretty much anything. If I find answers to my test on it, I might have a little heartburn with that. You can put examples, you can put facts, formulas. That also means some of the graphics that we have, you can put those graphics on there as well.